The Pittsburgh Steelers' 1974 draft is one that could have been nothing more than pedestrian. However, thanks to the likes of head coach Chuck Noll, wide receiver John Stallworth, and the Steelers Hall of Fame scout Bill Nunn, the Steelers put together inarguably the greatest draft in not only the history of football, but probably the history of sports. And there's a really crazy story behind this draft. Before 1972, the Pittsburgh Steelers were known to be perennial losers, earning themselves the nickname the same old Steelers. Now, 1972 and 1973 were the best seasons in Steelers history at the time, but they ended with playoff losses to the 1972 perfect season Dolphins and the Oakland Raiders in consecutive years. 1974, however, was the year that they finally got over that hump, and it all started with the 1974 draft. Coming off of one of their best seasons, the Steelers had a really low draft position, picking 21st out of 26 teams. Now this was a problem because Chuck Noll had first round grades on Alabama A&M wide receiver John Stallworth ever since 1973 when he first heard of him. And with such low draft positioning, Chuck Noll was worried that the Steelers were simply going to miss out on him. However, there was one small shimmer of hope. Alabama A&M was an HBCU in Huntsville, Alabama. And being such a small school, very few NFL teams, very few NFL scouts went to go to Alabama A&M's pro day. Those who did go went to go see John Stallworth, but unfortunately, it happened to be raining during the time he was supposed to run the 40-yard dash. And as you can imagine, that led to a less than ideal 40 time. Now this was a turnoff to the few scouts that did attend this pro day, all except Steelers scout Bill Nunn. Nunn opted to stay one more day over at Alabama A&M in hopes that John Stallworth would probably run a better 40 time in more dry conditions. Now believe it or not, Bill Nunn, he was the only NFL scout there for John Stallworth to run his 40 time again. And he must have found that second 40 time impressive because it never got released to the public. Now Bill Nunn also took advantage of his strong relationship with the HBCU community, and he convinced Alabama A&M to give him all the tape there was on John Stallworth. And funny enough, he conveniently forgot to return the tape back to the college. And he even managed to keep it away from all the other scouts in the NFL. John Stallworth has just become Pittsburgh's best kept secret. With that said, Chuck Noll was still worried that teams were going to find out about what kind of a weapon John Stallworth is once he plays in the Senior Bowl. However, the Steelers got yet another lucky break as the Senior Bowl coaches, for some reason, had John Stallworth play both offense and defense. This means that NFL scouts didn't get to see John Stallworth's full potential on offense pretty much. Draft day of 1974 came, and John Stallworth did in fact fall to the 21st pick. And Chuck Noll was prepared, he was ready, he was eager to pull the trigger on John Stallworth. However, the Steelers scouts advised him,
"Hold up, wait a minute,"
to wait. Just wait on it. Sitting at pick 21 was a receiver by the name of Lynn Swann out of USC. And he was also a big contributor to USC's 1972 national championship team. The Steelers scouts convinced Chuck Noll, hey, let's take Lynn Swann. He's a great player, but he's a more well-known commodity throughout the league. Couple that with the fact that the scouts also predicted John Stallworth to continue to fall. Theoretically, you could take John Stallworth now, but that sure as hell means you're not getting Lynn Swann after that. However, the other option, you could take Lynn Swann, a great player, now, and you still have a pretty good chance of getting John Stallworth later in the draft. Chuck Noll was convinced, and they selected
Pittsburgh on the first round selects Lynn Swann, Southern California.
Lynn Swann spent his entire 9-year career with the Steelers, racking up 336 receptions, 5,462 receiving yards, 51 receiving touchdowns, and another rushing touchdown. In his rookie year, he scored the game-winning touchdown in the AFC Championship versus Oakland and helped the Steelers win their first Super Bowl in franchise history. Swann went on to win 4 Super Bowls with the Steelers, and he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2001. Now it came time for the Steelers to pick in the second round of the draft. Coming out of Kent State, 204-pound middle linebacker Jack Lambert was considered by most teams to be too small for the NFL, except for the Steelers. Steelers defensive coordinator Bud Carson felt Lambert's size and speed would be a great fit for the Steelers' Tampa 2 scheme on defense. Now with that being said, knowing the Steelers didn't have any third-round picks after this, Chuck Noll was excited and eager to finally pull the trigger on his guy, John Stallworth, because there's no way he's gonna fall to the 4th round, right? However, the Steelers scouts really did like Stallworth, and they were confident that he would continue to fall. They convinced Chuck Noll to draft Jack Lambert, and they never looked back. In year one, Jack Lambert was named Defensive Rookie of the Year and helped the Steelers win their first ever Super Bowl. Jack Lambert also spent his entire 11-year career with the Steelers, racking up 1,479 tackles, 28 picks, 23.5 sacks, a touchdown, 7 forced fumbles, 17 fumble recoveries, 8 All-Pro selections, and was named the 1976 Defensive Player of the Year. Jack was a relentless force on the Steelers defense, leading the team to 4 Super Bowl championships. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1990 and will go down as one of the scariest defensive players in NFL history. The Steelers got to pick again with the 84th overall pick in the 4th round of the NFL draft. And to the surprise of nobody, Chuck Noll and the Steelers finally got to select their guy, wide receiver John Stallworth out of Alabama A&M. In his rookie year, Stallworth played a role with the Steelers, helping them win their first ever Super Bowl. He went on to spend his entire 14-year career with the Steelers, hauling in 537 receptions for 8,723 yards and 63 touchdowns. He played a big role in helping the Steelers win 4 Super Bowls, including scoring his iconic 73-yard game-winning touchdown versus the Rams in Super Bowl 14. This small school receiver that nobody wanted was just inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2002. Now with their 5th round pick, the Steelers selected center Mike Webster out of Wisconsin. Mike Webster was the backup to then starting center Ray Mansfield during the first 2 years of his career when the Steelers won their first 2 Super Bowls. But he eventually took over as the starter in the 1976 season and helped the Steelers go on to win Super Bowls 13 and 14, with Franco Harris rushing behind him. He played 15 years with the Steelers and finished his career playing 2 seasons with the Chiefs, earning 7 All-Pro nods, 4 Super Bowl rings, and he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1997. Now when people think of the 1974 Steelers draft, they always think about Lynn Swann, Mike Webster, Jack Lambert, John Stallworth, but there's always one guy that gets left out of the conversation because he was undrafted. After the 1974 draft, the Steelers signed undrafted free agent defensive back Donnie Shell, and he would go on to have a legendary career with the team. Donnie Shell went on to spend his entire 14-year career with the Steelers, mostly as a strong safety, and he had an eye for the football, snagging 51 total interceptions in just 201 games. He was named to 5 Pro Bowls, earned 5 All-Pro honors, including helping the Steelers win 4 Super Bowls. Donnie Shell was inducted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame as part of the Centennial class in 2020. The 1974 Pittsburgh Steelers featured a draft class of Lynn Swann, Jack Lambert, John Stallworth, and Mike Webster, 4 Hall of Famers, and just when they couldn't get enough, they even went and signed one undrafted, Donnie Shell, another Hall of Famer. There has yet to be, and there likely never will be, a draft that lives up to the Steelers' 1974 NFL Draft. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. Thank you to my new patrons and YouTube members, George Tomovich and Charles Jones. You guys can also help me pursue my goals of making the show my full-time job for just $1 a month. I want to move to Pittsburgh someday, make this my full-time job. You can help me do that. But regardless, I love and appreciate all of you who watch. Share this video with your friends if you enjoyed it. And as always, here we go.